Hello and welcome to the Evercade Retreat. My name is Gene Joke and today I'm ranking all the games from the Toaplan Arcade Collection Volume 2. If you watched my ranking of the Toaplan Arcade Collection 1, you may recall that I wasn't really familiar with the Toaplan name, but I had played a number of the games, and the same holds true here. I'm pretty sure I'd only played one of them, which was Hellfire, but I'll get more into that later. Anyway, there's not much waffle or preamble to go through. Let's start with my least favourite and work my way up to my favourite. And this was an easy pick. Demon's World is my least favourite game in the collection. Now, thematically, horror stuff and monsters, I've always liked that sort of stuff, I love the Splatterhouse games, they're forward and everything, but they're good fun. I suppose that sort of holds true here. The controls and mechanics of the game are deeply flawed in my opinion, and they're my barrier to enjoyment with it. Graphically, I think the backgrounds and all that are quite nice. They certainly have that kind of Halloween vibe. The monsters, they're cartoony, but they're drawn well enough. Although the character is about as appealing as Syphilis, I think it just doesn't have any real character to him. But that side, visually it's pretty solid and the music's quite charming, it works pretty well. I say, it's the game mechanics that really bug me. The auto-scrolling's fine, it's maybe not my gameplay style of choice, but it's fine. The power-ups there, well enough. Well, not really power-ups, you get different weapons through the game, but you don't really power them up. But again, that's fine. It's the jumping and, the double jump in particular. It just doesn't feel good to play. I couldn't really get used to it. I played through the game, but I just kept thinking, God, this is annoying to control. And I know some people do really like this game, so clearly other people managed to cope with those controls better than I did. But yeah, they really made it harder for me to enjoy than it might otherwise have been. And next up is Wardener, which is a platform game where you control a character that looks like Cartman from South Park, going around trying to save his girlfriends from some evil demon wizard guy or something. Yeah, I don't really worry about plots in these kind of games. Again, like Demon's World, it's got some nice graphics. I think they're actually more appealing here than Demon's World, and some cool looking environments. No complaints with the visuals or the sound really, it's all pretty well put together. It's a pretty decent platform game, and in some ways it seems odd for an arcade game. This is something that feels like it would have much more at home on a console. It was ported to the Mega Drive and maybe some other systems, but anyway, it's a platform game and it's pretty good. You get cloaks which act as like an extra hit point. There's a shop for upgrading your weapons and things like that. There's some nice touches to it, but the controls feel flawed. It just doesn't quite control like any other platform game. The physics in some ways are a bit more realistic than most platform games, and it doesn't ruin your enjoyment, but it takes a bit of getting used to. And I think for me really this demonstrates that while Toaplan are really good at shoot 'em ups, on other genres they struggled a bit and they didn't quite work in the way that other games of the genre and era were working. It is a good game, it's just a little bit flawed, and play through it once, maybe twice. I can't see anyone coming back to it much more than that. So next we have Rally Bike, which is a vertically scrolling, sort of racing game. Well, it is a racing game. You're racing on a bike, dodging obstacles and other racers. Essentially on each stage you have to place above a certain rank. You dodge others, you pick up fuel, and make your way to the end of the stage. Fairly straightforward stuff. There are some power-ups which are quite interesting. In many ways it plays like a shoot 'em up, just without shooting. To be perfectly honest, I thought this would have been my least favourite game on the collection. I bounced off it pretty hard, and although the key elements are there, I just found it a bit frustrating to play. You have to learn the levels. It's hard to really get a good flow of action until you've really practiced and learned things, which is fine. Feels like an exercise in learning rather than reactions, more so than something like Hard Type, which again is very much memorisation. But yeah, it just didn't quite sit right for me. And it wasn't until someone reported a bug on the game on a later stage where I thought, well, I'll see if I can replicate that. So I played through the game, got to that, and that bug is there. And this seems to be from one of their most recent updates, because it had been working fine for people prior to that. But there's a graphical glitch on, I think it's stage 4 or 5, if I remember rightly. So that's as far as I've got in the game. But I think I've played enough to have a good feel for how it works. And that hopefully will get that issue, hopefully will be patched fairly soon. Blades are aware of it, so yeah, hopefully they'll get fixed. Again, it's not a bad game, but it's not brilliant. Watching it is fun, and it was a toss-up between whether this one would be here or Wardener, but I think I actually had a bit more fun with this one, so here it is. And next we have Twin Cobra, which, as I understand it, is the sequel to Tiger Heli, but you can tell that shoot 'em ups as a whole had evolved since the release of that game. This feels like a much more rounded shoot 'em up. You've got some decent power-ups. The gameplay is faster and more frantic. With the power-ups, it's a lot more satisfying. This is what I consider to be a genuinely good, shoot 'em up. It's not perfect, but I did really enjoy it. And graphics and sound are all really nice, but on the negatives there's almost a slight hint of blandness to it. Blandness isn't the right word. It just doesn't feel like it stands out from the crowd quite enough compared to some of the others. Bosses aren't all that impressive. They're good fun and all that, but it just feels a little bit unremarkable. It's just an absolutely solid and good fun shoot 'em up. Just not the best here, in my opinion anyway. And speaking of shoot 'em ups, that brings us to Twin Hawk, which is another, military themed shoot 'em up, although this time you are flying in a plane rather than a helicopter. And the power-ups on this one are interesting. I mean, your main shots are pretty basic. There's no variety in power-ups, although you can increase your firepower. But what it makes it different is essentially the bombs, or the lack of a bomb. You have almost like a fleet or a squadron of ships which will back you up. Instead of having a smart bomb that clears the screen, you'll get this squadron of smaller ships or smaller planes which will just shoot throughout the screen. The enemy fire they'll take enemy fire, and as they are wiped out, your squadron gets smaller until it's gone. Or you can double tap the summon squadron button and do like a sort of form of screen clear attack. I think it works quite well and changes the dynamic. Again, this has, like I said with Twin Cobra, it has that little bit of a slight blandness to it, but that squadron system makes it stand out a bit more. Again, it is a good fun shoot 'em up. Again, it is a very good game, but it does sort of blend in a little bit with Flying Shark, Twin Cobra, Tiger Heli. These sort of military based shoot 'em ups kind of blended together a bit for me. It may be preference, but I suppose maybe it is having played them in close succession with doing these rankings that they are blending in so much. But again, sometimes I've had trouble remembering which is which one, and it's only when I'm actually playing them I think, oh yeah, this is the one with this mechanic, or they do mix it up, which keeps things interesting. But like I said, they do kind of blend in a bit. But again, that's not a criticism per game, it's just as a whole they don't stand out as uniquely as Toaplan's more sort of sci-fi or fantastical kind of shooters. Or again, I mean, maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just more of a sci-fi type of guy, And speaking of sci-fi shooters, Hellfire is a sci-fi based horizontally scrolling shoot 'em up, but you fly your spaceship from left to right, taking out bad guys, and you get various power-ups. But not only that, you can change your fire type. Essentially, you can press a button to cycle through shooting straight ahead, shooting straight behind you, shooting at diagonals, or shooting up and down. And that adds a bit of a strategic element to selecting what type of fire and how you're dodging. And visually and sonically, it's really good. This is a game that I actually played on the Sega Mega Drive back on the day, and it was one of my favourite shooters on the Mega Drive. So again, it's obviously why it's high up here. The biggest difficulty I found with the game is the cycling of the weapons, because you have to cycle through. Sometimes you're having to try and stay safe or avoid enemies while not really firing, and it can affect it. If that could have been timed up, it would have gone a long way. You could cycle left and right rather than just cycling through a whole thing. It might have improved things. But again, it is a really good, satisfying shoot 'em up. It's a decent challenge, and it does have a definite ending. But again, maybe this is nostalgia that's putting this higher than it is. I know some people do find this game more frustrating than enjoyable. But again, I've always enjoyed this game, so my ranking, this is where it goes. And finally, my favourite game in the collection, and possibly the most challenging in some ways, is Fire Shark. Once again, it's almost like World War II style militaristic vertically scrolling shoot 'em up, but this one for me kind of stands out a little bit. If it was a touch more polished overall with some nice sort of graphical touches and things, again the graphics and sound are really well done, and the power-ups are really satisfying. This is one that I found really challenging at first, and it wasn't until I kind of got a bit of practice with it and really found myself getting into it, almost like getting into the flow of the game, that I could just relax. I went from barely getting anywhere in the game, dying horribly and really struggling, to like just plowing through stages and bosses and really getting quite far in it. And it really made me appreciate what makes some shoot 'em up so satisfying. Will I ever one credit clear it? No, not really, probably not. I believe it loops anyway, if I recall correctly, which I think most of these Toaplan shoot ups do. But again, it's just a very satisfying pick up, put one credit in, blast away, and some of these power-ups, you get the flamethrower, which is a really satisfying weapon to use. It makes you feel really powerful, and it feels like a bit of a middle ground between almost like your, late 80s, early 90s style shoot 'em ups and your later sort of bullet hell shoot 'em ups, like from Backskin onwards. It's got elements of both. Some weapons are screen clearing. You have to earn to get up to those weapons, but it's very satisfying when you've got it. But if you take a hit, you die, and you get depowered, you're struggling again. But again, it's so rewarding when you get to that state and you can keep it going for a long while and essentially power through enemies and get further into the game. So yeah, I have a lot of fun with this one, which is why it's top of the list. So I suppose, overall ranking time, as you can tell, I like a lot of the games here. Actually, I don't really dislike any, apart from maybe Demon's Ride because of those controls. But once again, it is shoot 'em up heavy. I think it's also worth mentioning the kart combo unlock. If you put this and Toaplan 1 in a VS, then you'll unlock the Mega Drive version of Twin Hawk, which again is very similar to the other one, but it's quite an enjoyable playthrough in its own right. But again, it is the same game and it's not changed too dramatically, it's a fairly close port. But anyway, the collection itself, yes, it's very heavy on shooters, and as I mentioned, I felt the World War II or the military style shooters did blend a little bit, but there is a reasonable amount of variety, with Rally Bite, Wardener and Demon's World, and then obviously Hellfire being a horizontal scrolling shoot 'em up. But the non-shoot 'em ups are the weaker games here. So really, if you're not a fan of shoot 'em ups, it's much harder to recommend this one. Overall, I would give it an 8 out of 10 for fans of shoot 'em ups, and maybe a 6 out of 10 or a 6.5 out of 10 for people who are not shoot 'em up fans. In the depths of space, where shadow fall to supermax, black nebula, death by cosmic night, laser beams igniting the fight. Here comes the hellfire! Hellfire! Burning like 1,000 stars, killing frozen alien blast! Hellfire! Hellfire! Burning like 1,000 stars, killing frozen, having a blast! Hellfire! Hellfire! Collecting foes in endless waves. In the depths of death, our spirits brave. Evercade through fields of dread. With every shot, we push ahead. Here comes the hellfire. Hellfire. Burning like 1,000 stars, killing foes and having a blast. Hellfire. Hellfire. Combined! Here comes the hellfire! Hell! Hellfire! Burning like 1,000 stars, killing foes and having a blast! Galactic foes and endless waves. In the depths of death, our spirits blaze. Never gain through fields of dread. With every shot, we push ahead. Here comes the hellfire. Here comes the hellfire. In the void, the battle's heat. Refuse defeat. Forever
fire. Combine